The Particular Abilities of Marinette and Her Discovery of Them by Plants Are Fun 06, a Miraculous Ladybug, Batman, crossover fanfic. Chapter 7, Part 2, Mothers and Manipulation. "That's my seat. Move, monster." She saw the moment Chloe entered the building, and attempted to ready herself when she saw her approaching the classroom, but nothing could prepare her for hearing the whiny voice after one summer of abstinence from it. One glorious summer. Marinette had been in school with Chloe since maternelle, and since maternelle, Marinette had been deemed monster by Chloe because of her scarring around her eyes, and how her eyes were cloudy. When she was little, most of the other kids would laugh at Chloe's taunts, calling her monster with Chloe. Marinette guessed it was herd mentality. It hurt when she was little, especially when Chloe would make a show of running screaming from her at recess. All the other children mimicked her. When she was little, it reminded her too closely of the village, and made her cry a lot, a bit. Mama and Papa would always try to explain to the other children, but Marinette knew that wouldn't really change anything. Having friends who were also blind helped. For one, it wasn't like they could see her face. They simply knew she was blind. Some of the kids she was friends with knew that she was blinded by an accident. She never told anyone the specifics of how she became blind, but the doctors were able to tell that it was due to vitiligo. There was a boy she was friends with when she was 5. He moved away several years ago, but he asked if he could touch her eye scars because his mom told him that she was blinded by acid. He promptly said to her, "That's so cool. You must have a way cooler backstory than me. I was just born blind." She never really thought of it that way. The boy, she was pretty sure was named Philip, watched Spider-Man, and he really liked the other Adventures cartoons. She had never thought of her scars or how she got them in a positive light, but what he said made her a little more appreciative of her situation. It's not like if she didn't become blind she would have met Mama and Papa. There weren't any blind children that attended her primary, though. Maybe that's why Marinette was so close with Kim and Nino. They never really had an issue with her scars. They thought it was cool that she was blind because she got to carry around her walking stick, and Kim said she could hit people with it. She got in trouble when she did it. Kim and her were really close because she felt like she could do anything with Kim, and he wouldn't care. He was always really protective of her when the other kids would call her a monster. She told him to stop several years ago, because she finally stopped caring, and knew it was never going to stop because the teachers and school administrators were scared of making Chloe mad. She was close to Nino for a lot of reasons, but the biggest one was because she knew one of her biggest secrets, that her first language was Arabic. To her, it was really big. It was a hint of her life in the League she kept under lock and key. She couldn't help but tell him when she heard him speak Arabic with his mother. Apparently, he was born and lived in Morocco until he was 1. Then he moved to Paris because his father got a really nice job in the city that was worth moving countries for. It had made her incredibly happy to be able to speak Arabic with another person again. She had always spoken to herself in Arabic, and still largely thought in Arabic, but it wasn't the same as having an actual conversation. Even though she would never consider Nandam Parbat home, there was great comfort in speaking her native tongue, not having to translate when speaking. Over the years, French became more and more comfortable to speak, and she didn't have to translate in her head anymore, but it still felt good to just relax and speak with complete ease. How she would near constantly have to ensure she didn't accidentally slip into speaking Arabic. She could speak Mandarin in front of Tom and Sabine. Sabine was fluent. And while Tom couldn't speak or read it, he had been with Sabine long enough to understand it, especially with Marinette and Sabine speaking to each other in Mandarin fluently. She snapped out of her thoughts with Chloe's hand slamming on the table. "I'm sitting here. This is my seat." Again, that voice. "Chloe, I sat here all last year. Why is it an issue now?" Marinette said in an almost bored voice. "Because Adrikins is sitting in the front seat, and I'm his best friend, so I'm sitting here." Marinette had woke up 20 minutes ago, after sleeping in all summer, and decided it's too damn early for this, and did not argue, and got up, grabbing her stick, and fake guiding herself down the opposite side of the bottom row and sat there, not forgetting to hit Chloe's ankles on accident on her way down, eliciting a "Hey!" from Chloe. Kim would be proud of her. She could see that there was another girl sitting in the seat beside her as well, and desperately hoping that this girl would not try and do any small talk. Marinette hated small talk. It just ended up with people learning she was blind, and her scars, and then either asking multiple invasive questions about it, or trying to ignore it while they stared directly at her scars and made faces they thought she couldn't see. Why do you let her do that? Call you names and force you to do what she says? Marinette just sighed. I've been fighting with Chloe since I was 6, and frankly, it's too early in the morning to deal with her. Marinette grumbled while taking out her laptop and starting it up. You can't let her get away with that. Can't let her walk all over you, call you names. Monster? Why does she even call you that? The girl asked. Marinette just sighed and lifted her sunglasses off her face and flashed the girl a look at her eyes and scarring. The girl sat there at what must have been a few long moments, openly gawking. Marinette just went back to setting up her computer and putting in her earpiece, resigning herself to being bombarded with questions. Girl, that's sick. Not you, that girl. Chloe? What kind of person even makes fun of a person for... How can she even... What the hell? The girl was flashing looks between Marinette, working on her computer, and Chloe, who was sitting a row back across from them. Eventually, she stopped and faced her, and let out a huff. Hi, I'm Alia Casare. She handed her hand out before awkwardly dropping it and turning to face the front of the classroom, stiff as a board. Marinette let out a little smile at that. The girl clearly didn't know what to do. Probably hadn't interacted closely with someone who was blind. Or very little. But she wasn't bombarding her with questions. And besides the gaping at first, she wasn't making faces. So that counted for something. Marinette grabbed the box of half-ruined raspberry macaroons. Never strawberry. She couldn't stomach strawberry since she was 4. It had been a Sunday, meaning that Mama and Papa took advantage of many people going to church and closed down the bakery for the morning. Neither of them were particularly religious, but they liked to spend Sunday mornings with each other in peace. Mama had cut a bowl of fresh strawberries for her breakfast. When she first came to live with them, she loved strawberries, ice cream, macaroons, cake, you name it. But it was those strawberries. It was her eating them. She had eaten an entire bowl and felt the sticky juice residue on her fingers. The moment she really felt it and focused on it. And then the flashbacks came. She was in the same place from nearly a year beforehand, during the village, when the wild strawberry residue was on her fingers just the same. She had a hard time remembering what happened next, but she did remember leaning over the toilet crying, while desperately trying to throw up the strawberry she could see in her stomach. After that day, she couldn't be around strawberries anymore. She refused to go into the bakery, and Mama and Papa had to eventually remove all the strawberries from the bakery. It took her a year and a very well-paid child psychologist for her to even allow herself around strawberries. Though, the one time she tried to eat strawberries when she was 11, she ended up vomiting it up 3 minutes later during a panic attack. Marinette grabbed the only uncrushed raspberry macaroon. She promptly split it in half and handed one half over to the girl, Alia. Marinette DuPage Chang, she responded, smiling to herself. She saw as Alia smiled at her and took a bite out of the macaroon. She seemed to like it. Marinette saw a middle-aged woman walk through that classroom door and shut it. Hello, my name is Madame Bustier. I will be your teacher for this. She was distracted by what was going on at the back of the classroom. She saw Kim handed Ivan something. While she couldn't see what it was, she could tell from how Kim's hand was pinching it. It was most likely paper. Maybe a note? And her suspicions were confirmed when Ivan seemed to ball it up and throw it back at Kim. Ivan, what was that? Both Kim and Ivan turned to face Madame Bustier, slight horror dawning on their faces. Ivan, go to the principal office, now. Marinette loved Kim. She dearly did. But Kim didn't really know where the line was, and sometimes he would flat out cross it. Marinette felt bad for Ivan, but she really couldn't do anything about the situation. If Ivan was sent to the principal office, eventually Kim would be brought in too, and the situation would sort itself out. though it didn't change that she knew right now it probably sucked for Ivan, being immediately blamed. Kim took his seat, Ivan grabbed his bag and left, and Madame Bustier went on with the introductions and explained what she would be teaching throughout the year. When Madame Bustier was telling them about the extra credit opportunities that she offered, Marinette saw something outside the classroom. It was large, larger than any living, moving thing she had ever seen. Before she was able to warn anyone that something was coming, it burst through the classroom door yelling at Kim, and proceeded to stomp through the wall and jump onto the street. Marinette was frozen in the moment before Alia shook her arm to snap her out of herself. I think Ivan just turned into a rock monster. We need to go. I need to go follow it and get footage. A superhero may even show up. Where there's a monster, a hero is sure to arrive. Marinette tried to stop Alia, but by the time Marinette slipped her laptop in her backpack and stood up, she was already gone. Oh, she hoped what Alia said wouldn't come true, that a super wouldn't show up. Don't get her wrong, she admired them. They clearly put a lot on the line to protect people, but that didn't stop her from hearing news coverage of the fights, reading the articles afterwards. Didn't stop her from seeing the amount of money and time it would take for repairs, the amount of people injured, the amount of people dead. Frankly, she was hoping that this rock monster... Wait, rock monster? She wanted to think she heard Alia wrong, but she knew that wasn't the case. She didn't know what the monster was made out of. She couldn't really specify what it was. She'd never seen anything like it before. She couldn't equate anything she had seen in the past to what she was seeing a moment ago, and Alia said it was a rock. But she could see it? How did Ivan even become a rock monster? Was he a meta? Did someone else make him like that? Is he going to be that way forever? Is this only temporary? Why could she see the rock?